Do you know what Hipaa stands for? Hipaa stands for Health Insurance Portability and Accountability. The Hipaa Act establishes 3 specific rules that protect certain types of health information. The Hipaa Privacy Rule protects the privacy of health information where the identity of an individual is either known or could reasonably be determined. The Security Rule sets national standards for the security of electronic protected health information. And the Patient Safety Rule enforces confidentiality of information used to analyze adverse events to improve patient safety. The Office for Civil Rights is responsible for Hipaa enforcement. Protected health information is patient-specific information that is created, maintained, used, or disclosed. It applies to an individual's physical or mental health, the type or nature of healthcare services the patient received, and payment for those services. Excellion access may only be used to provide what is considered to be normal care. This includes access required to provide healthcare services and access for business processes related to that care. Access is permitted not only for direct care, but also for follow-up care when a person could reasonably assume that they might either contribute something to the patient's later care or support, or as part of learning and improving quality. Keep in mind, there may be more scrutiny as to what constitutes reasonable access, depending on the employee's relationship to the patient and for patients who are well-known public figures. Written permission must be obtained from a patient anytime protected health information is to be released to someone else. This is true whether information is electronic in Excellion or written. This is accomplished by means of a release of information. A release of information is a legal document. They are only valid if the person is at least 18 years old, the authorization is signed and dated, and it has been signed within the preceding 12 months. A release of information must be completed in full. Incomplete information prolongs turnaround time. Completed ROI should be sent to the Health Information Department for review and scanning into Excellion before information is released. Calls pertaining to release of information should forward to the Health Information Department. Staff there is versed in rules and regulations surrounding ROI. Please utilize them for their expertise. That's what they're here for. While allowed view-only access through MyChart, you may not access your own Excellion record or that of your minor child. You may not print, copy, modify, or forward your own protected health information. Standard policies for release of information apply as for other patients. ROI completion and processing through our Health Information Department. Limited copies of certain information, for example, an X-ray report, may be obtained from your caregiver. In compliance with Minnesota law, records access for children aged 13 through 17 is limited to immunization and appointment scheduling information. A release of information is required for full access. You are responsible for maintaining the confidentiality and security of your Excellion password. You may not provide this to others or allow them to document while using it. Secure or log out of Excellion when not in use, and use the Control-Alt-Delete function to lock your computer. Use Excellion documentation or in-basket messaging and not your email to relate patient care issues. Communication should be limited to the minimum necessary to address patient concerns and should never be shared with staff not involved in their care. If communication by email is required, limit reference to patient A number and initials. Melissa Parker is United Family Medicine security official and responsible for generating 5 reports every month. Audits are based on randomly selected user logins and search for Excellion access that appears without consent or business purpose on another employee, family member, high-profile patient, neighbor, or a deceased patient. Suspected incidents are thoroughly investigated to substantiate a business need for access, the user's role in providing care or related services, a narrative description of the user's activity, and the depth and nature of their access in the medical record. Private health information is a sacred trust, and there is zero tolerance for violating that trust. Caregivers, employees, and business partners who knowingly reveal protected health information will be held accountable. Employees found to have done so will face disciplinary action up to and including termination. Violations that occur in Excellion may result in revocation of access both in Excellion and Epic systems and substantially hinder future employment opportunities. Violations of protected health information must be reported by law to the patient and the Secretary of Health and Human Services. If the breach affects more than 500 individuals in a state or jurisdiction, an announcement must be made in the media. And while at one time penalties were primarily against organizations, both organizations and individuals may now face civil and criminal penalties, including fines. Hipaa breaches are serious and need to be reported to supervisors immediately. But what about mistaken access? We understand that mistakes happen. If you discover you're in a chart where you shouldn't be, get out of the record as soon as possible. The fewer clicks and screens up to your point of discovery, the less likely alarms will be raised. Resources are available within the clinic and online to answer your questions. If you are ever in doubt about Hipaa rules and regulations, you need only to ask. If we don't know the answer, we will find out together. When someone is seen in clinic you know personally, including family members, neighbors, or even coworkers with whom you work closely, remember your responsibility to protect their privacy. At no time should you provide care to your own spouse or a partner. A coworker can be asked to cover your duties under these circumstances. Help your coworkers avoid Hipaa pitfalls. Remind them of Hipaa if you overhear conversations that should be conducted in private or see information that is not secured, including Excellion screens. An individual's personal information, including their status as a patient of our clinic, is protected and should not be disclosed. Information may not be shared with your family, friends, or mutual acquaintances. In a public setting, patients may not wish to be identified as clinic patients. Let them make the first move. If a patient approaches you in public, avoid greetings or questions such as, "How are you?" or "Can I help?" that may invite discussion of protected information or identify them as a patient. Limit to pleasantries, a simple "hello" or "it's nice to see you." Take measures to steer conversation away from and prevent clinic or health-related content. Explain your need to follow Hipaa guidelines to protect both their privacy and your position. Thank you for your thoughtfulness and your discretion.